The women proved that they are more than worthy of taking that night session slot, as both matches from the ladies on Chartrier gave us everything we needed and more. I'll talk about Svitolina and Swiatek's colossal comeback wins, discuss the impending Zheng Sabalenka rematch, as well as the 3 American men in action who did a tremendous job in their round of 16 matches. Bonjour, je m'appelle Christian Basnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my day 9 recap. So day 8 started with a bang on Chartrier as Elena Svitolina eliminated Rome champion and last year's Roland Garros runner-up Jasmine Paolini 4-6, 7-6, 6-1. This match was very high quality for the first 2 sets at least. Jasmine jumped out to a 3-love lead in the first set and she looked in firm control, but she does not have the strongest serve, and Svitolina got the return right back on her due to, again, Jasmine not really having a serve that can hit opponents off the court. Really, we can say the same thing for both women, which is why there were 9 breaks of serve in the first 2 sets alone. I initially had Svitolina winning this match before the tournament even started, as I had these two coming together and facing off in the round of 16, but I kind of sided it back with Jasmine because, ahead of this one at least, in my last video, because I felt that she was a little bit more solid in this tournament, and the match reflected that for much of it, as Jasmine, she was just a bit better in the tight moments, which is why she led by 6-4, 4-1. However, Jasmine struggled to keep that advantage. She got broken, but she was able to serve for it at 5-3, but then she got broken at 15. Paolini's best possible chance at winning the match came when she returned for it at 5-4, as she had 2 match points here, but they were just really poor ground stroke misses, first from the forehand and then a backhand she missed pretty badly. Jasmine had one more chance at 6-5 in the second set tiebreaker, but here Svitolina took matters into her own hands and finished off a strong point with a volley winner. I still think Paolini was just way too passive on this point in particular, and I feel like she was just waiting for the Svitolina backhand unforced error to come, which it didn't. Credit to Elena for just locking in. And after she lost the second set, I expected Paolini to go off the court and reset, but she stayed on court, which I was surprised by, and I think that was a huge mistake because having all those match points and the momentum is fully on your opponent's side. I know some people say it's gamesmanship, but she's got to do an Iga there and go off the court, and that was just funny shade there. No dig towards Iga, you know. But anyways, after Svitolina broke Paolini twice to start off the third set and finished off her break point at 2-love, she kind of ran away with the match in the end. I think Elena just wanted this match more, and she played like it, being the more aggressor of the two when things were tight. For Jasmine, this is her first real choke type of loss on this grand stage. The question will be, how will she be able to recover, because this is again a tight, disappointing loss for her. Still, regardless of this disappointing result, she should be very proud of her clay season. She made the semifinals of Stuttgart, of course, won her first 1,000 on clay at home in Rome, and she will at least remain inside the top 10 when the tournament is finished. Even though those Wimbledon finals points are coming off soon, I think that she has a strong shot at staying inside the top 10 once that tournament is over. But full credit, of course, given to Svitolina. She earned that win for sure, and she had the game to beat Paolini, of course, having a strong clay season, but the way she was able to step up and not back down whenever she faced match points is a testament to her renewed type of game style post-maternity. And she even said it herself, she's in her 30s, she doesn't have time to kind of be passive. She's going to take her chances, and that's exactly what she did today, and that's why she's in the quarterfinals and why Jasmine Paolini is no longer in this tournament. Now, Igs Swiatek must have taken inspiration from the Ukrainian because she pulled off a comeback win of her own the following match, defeating 12th seed Elena Rybakina 1-6, 6-3, 7-5. Rybakina came out on this match guns blazing. It was a tremendous opening set from her, and Iga even said herself after the match that it felt like she was playing Yannick Sinner with how well Elena was playing. And Rybakina was really close to bageling Iga in that first set. She really should have, low-key. And this match was looking similar to how, that Collins was dominating Iga in Rome and how Keys was dominating her in Madrid, where she actually bageled the Polish woman in that match. But really, Rybakina played better than both Keys and Collins, to be honest. And she finished the first set with 12 winners to 8 unforced errors, and she won 88% of her first serve points. I thought that Rybakina was going to take control of this match and kind of steamroll in 2 sets, and especially when she broke first in the second set and she was leading 6-1 to love. However, the first big turning point of this match was her fumbling a put-away volley at break point at 2-1, and that kind of highlighted an issue with her net game. Elena did have 3 breakback points the following game, and Iga, it looked like she wanted to give it to her with how many double faults she threw in that 2-all game, but Rybakina was just unable to capitalize. The first 2 of those break points, I got to give credit to Iga. She played tremendous aggressive tennis, but that third one was going to be haunting Rybakina. It was a very easy or makeable missed backhand return. I think that was the nail in the coffin for her in the second set, not being able to break back. As Iga, she broke that following game, and again, giving credit to her, she made the smart decision, I think, to back up more on the first serve return to give herself more time and an opportunity to get back into point and ultimately pull Rybakina wide with her heavy forehand. Iga's returning position could have had maybe a mental impact on Rybakina too, because Elena's first serve percentage dipped bad from the first set. It was 56% first serves in, and then it dipped to 44% in the final 2 sets. Rybakina also did not have as much success on her return, but some of that was due to Iga stepping up her serving and cutting some of those double faults midway through the second set. Still, I thought that Elena would have a strong shot at taking this one in 3 sets, and she had a big look. She had 3 break points at 3-2 when she was up in the deciding set. She fumbled on her first and third break point chances, and it was both routine forehand errors. And then she suffered a boomerang break to get broken, and Iga looked like she was in prime control to run away with the match. However, Iga's service woes kind of returned at this 4-3 game, and Swiatek threw Rybakina a lifeline, and Rybakina broke back to level it at 4 apiece. Now, the most interesting moment of the match by far came at this 4-all game, where Rybakina, she was serving at 15-40 second serve, and she had a serve that the lines person called out, but Kader Nooney came down involuntarily to check it, and he ruled that the serve was in. And Iga was not really that pleased with it because she was right. Rybakina didn't even ask Kader to come down and check the mark, and I thought that was funny personally, but people were accusing Iga of gamesmanship again. And to be honest, I had to call a spade a spade. Those people who were not happy with Iga, they already didn't like her to begin with, let's be honest, because I feel like if it was other players, they would have laughed at it. If it was their favorite players, they would have for sure laughed at it, but since it was Iga, they were kind of up in arms. I really don't think it was that big of a deal. But anyways, Rybakina ended up winning that game, and I thought that Iga would kind of go off the rails. That was a huge moment, but again, credit to her for staying the course, and I think she played even better after that, after she lost that game at 4-all. Meanwhile, Rybakina just declined, and she couldn't buy a first serve to save her life. Rybakina, again, she should have won this match. She was given a lifeline multiple times, whether it be through her opponent or the umpire, but I think this loss kind of highlights a few issues with her. Her net game, for one, her service placement, particularly the second serve placement. I was baffled why she kept going kick second serve to Iga's backhand. It was so predictable. And yes, Iga's backhand, she's not able to attack it as much as if it were a forehand, but still, Iga's forehand is not totally reliable, even if it's a second serve return. And it's just a matter of mixing it in and keeping Iga on her toes, and Rybakina didn't do that at all. I think still it was a positive last few weeks for Rybakina because it looked really bad for her in Rome and Madrid. She won Strasbourg, ended her title draw, and she nearly defeated the 3-time defending Roland Garros champion Igs Swiatek. Now the question is, will this be another 1 step forward, 2 steps back for Rybakina? Because one fan of hers mentioned that she was close to beating the eventual Australian Open champion Madison Keys in the 4th round too, but she wasn't able to come out on top of that. And then she kind of had a so-so trail for the next few months. Hopefully for Rybakina's sake that doesn't happen, because she showed that she can be a slam contender. I just think that the biggest thing with her is mental. Will she be able to get over the hump? I think she can. She's proved that she has the game, but like we saw in the women's semifinals last year against Krejcikova, she could fold. So I'm curious to see, will she get over the finish line when she has this opportunity again, which will come for sure. Now with Iga, We are wondering, is this going to be the match that turns things around for her? Will this be another Osaka second round from 2024 where she saved the match point and then steamrolled through the title? I'm not sure, but Iga does have a very challenging draw, regardless of who wins and loses from now on. In the top half, she first has to get by Elina Svitolina, who played very well against Paolini, and then she will play the winner of Sabalenka and Zheng, both of who I might favor over Swiatek in that semifinal match. Again, gotta give credit to Iga for playing well, but there's no denying Rybakina let her foot off the gas for sure. Maybe she can get away with this again against Svitolina, but I don't know if Aryna or Qinwen will be so charitable in that semifinal. We'll just have to wait and see, but there is a possibility that Iga has so much more confidence from this win and she just continues to rise and improve her level more and more as the tournament goes on. Now, briefly previewing this Svitolina-Swiatek quarterfinal, I initially had Elena winning this one before the tournament even started. Iga does lead the head-to-head 3-1, and she's won all of her match wins over Elena in straight sets. However, the last time they met in a slam quarterfinals, Svitolina took it at Wimbledon, so that goes to show that Svitolina does have what it takes to beat Swiatek. However, Elena is 0-4 in Roland Garros quarterfinals, and I'm wondering if maybe some of that scar tissue, even though it was years ago, whether that might rear its ugly head here. And we saw in the Rome quarterfinal, she did fumble against Peyton Stearns, not gonna lie. So we'll have to see what happens here. I might give the slight edge to Iga in this one. Looking over at what happened on Suzanne Lenglen, Qinwen Zheng got the first women's win on that court, outlasting Ludmila Samsonova 7-6, 1-6, 6-3 in nearly 3 hours. This was an absolute grind, and I admittedly underestimated Samsonova. I knew that she could push Qinwen. Of course, she had a head-to-head advantage, I believe 3-2, but I didn't think that she would be able to push her as much because it was clay and Qinwen was a better clay court player. But Samsonova, she proved why she was a Strasbourg finalist for a reason, and she had her chances as she served for the opening set at 5-4, but I knew that Zheng, having more experience at this level, would just come through and really raise her level in the end, and that's exactly what happened in this one. Zheng now plays Aryna Sabalenka in the quarterfinals for like the millionth time, it seems. Aryna, she defeated Amanda Anisimova 7-5, 6-3, and this was a very, very strong win from the world number one because Anisimova was a very dangerous threat. She led the head-to-head with Big Lenka 5-2 coming into this one, and she's also coming off a straight sets win, Amanda was, off of Clara Tauson, who beat Sabalenka earlier in the year. But Aryna's variety, I think, with the drop shot was an X factor in this one, especially on the clay. And Aryna also was aided by a great serving day from her end. She hit 11 aces, only hit 3 double faults, and she served 65% of her first serves in, won 73% of her points behind the first serve, and 58% of points behind the second serve. Previewing Sabalenka and Zheng, Aryna leads the head-to-head 6-1, although Zheng won their last meeting a few weeks ago, in fact, in Rome, the quarterfinals, by a score of 4-3. Sabalenka did not play her best in that match for sure, but Qinwen deserves really much all the credit because it was a phenomenal match from her end. One of the best matches of her career, to be honest. I think that clay evens the playing field a little bit more in Zheng's favor, and I think that Qinwen will have a little bit more confidence coming into this one, having just beaten Sabalenka. Yes, a lot of their matches previously were straight sets for Sabalenka, but they could have been a lot closer, I always felt. But Qinwen was just not as opportunistic, and again, maybe having that win and having the confidence of beating Sabalenka just a few weeks prior could be the factor in helping Qinwen get her first win over Aryna in a major. Still, I slightly favor Sabalenka here because, for one, I feel like she has been playing slightly better than Zheng, and then two, she's talked quite a few times in her post-match interviews and such about how keen she is of getting revenge over Zheng. And I feel like she's going to be like on 10 when it comes to this match. So I'm going to be having her win this one and make the semifinals. Now, before I talk about the men's, I got to discuss just really how predictable women's tennis is becoming now, man. Like, I predicted all 4 of these top half quarterfinalists. Like, come on, ladies. It's like, it's getting so boring at some point. It's so predictable. Come on. I'm obviously trolling. Props to the women for maintaining great consistency. Again, I'm not surprised that all 4 of these quarterfinalists are here in the top half. They've all played great. Now, talking about the men, Paul and Frances Tiafoe made history today, becoming the first American men's duo to make the Roland Garros singles quarterfinal in the same year since Jim Courier and Pete Sampras did it in 1996. Tommy Paul opened play on Suzanne Lenglen with an impressive 3-3 win over Aussie Alexei Popyrin. I was mainly impressed by how well Paul recovered from playing back-to-back five-setters against Fucsovics and Khachanov. And also, he dealt with ab injury issues in those matches too, but it didn't really seem apparent at all in this fourth round. And he really needed that straight sets win if he wants a chance to go all the way and win the title. And this could have been a lot more complicated for Tommy because he faced 10 break points, but he was extremely clutch, saving 9 of those 10. This one sets a meeting with Carlos Alcaraz, the defending champion, who clawed past another American, Ben Shelton, winning 7-6, 6-3, 4-6, 6-4. This marks Carlos's 100th win on the clay court surface, and he's the first man born in the 2000s to do so. I'm impressed with Carlos not only by this performance, but his sportsmanship, because he conceded a point after letting go of his racket on a volley winner, and that was a crucial point too, as it ultimately gave Shelton a break point in the first game of the second set. That just goes to show the character of Carlos, so props to him for that. Now, I gotta praise Ben Shelton too, because even though he lost this match, I'm extremely impressed by the American. He was so close, really, to pushing this match to 5 sets. The serve was a major asset for Shelton, and I was impressed by how well he served even on the clay and being able to get quite a few free and easier points on that serve. He remained unbroken to bring it to a tiebreaker in the opening set, and there he had 3 set point opportunities. 2 of those were on Carlos's serve, and Alcaraz did save the first one with the service winner and the second one on his serve with a clutch volley winner. However, the set point on Ben's serve at 6-5 was on his racket, and he netted a routine backhand. Even in the second set, Shelton had a chance, and Carlos took that 6-3. I say this because, first of all, one break made the difference in this set, and then Ben had 6 break points alone in the first game, which he was not able to take advantage of. Maybe if he pushed that to a tiebreaker, he could have taken that set. We don't know. Ultimately, to me, this shows that Ben Shelton will win a slam in the future. He's proven that he can rival both Alcaraz and Sinner on their best surfaces at the majors. He had 2 set points in the first set against Jannik in their Australian Open semifinal this year. And yes, the second and third sets were kind of routine in favor of Sinner. I think that Ben, he first of all went away due to him not being able to capitalize, but also he had played a few tough matches before that semifinal, namely I think a 5-setter against Lorenzo Sonego. It might not be Roland Garros where Ben lifts his slams trophy, but with how he's improved this clay season, where it's normally not a great part of the season for him, I think that shows great signs for success for other surfaces, just his improved rally tolerance and being able to figure out other ways to win points too, using just all his tools in his arsenal. And I think for sure he could be a contender in all of the slams, to be honest, but especially those other 3 slams, Australian Open, Wimbledon, and US Open, where the courts are a little bit faster and his serve is going to be even more of a weapon there. Looking ahead to Alcaraz Paul, Carlos will be a big favorite in this one. He's going to be playing his 4th consecutive Roland Garros quarterfinal, and this is going to be Tommy's first quarterfinal at the Clay Court Slam. I do think that Tommy has a strong chance. Yes, Carlos leads the head-to-head 4-2, and he's won their last 3 meetings, but all of their meetings have been tough, and Tommy has the game to trouble Carlos, and he was in each and every one of those matches. The last meeting was actually here in the quarterfinals, but it was the Olympics, which Alcaraz won 3-6. I will be siding with Carlos in this one, though. I do think that eventually those back-to-back 5-setters that Paul won in rounds 2 and 3, plus potentially the ab issue, could catch up to him in this one. Not to mention, he does have a little bit of a choking issue. He choked particularly bad in his last slam quarterfinal at the Australian Open against Zverev, and Carlos is even better, of course, than Zverev is, and I don't know if he'll let Tommy off the hook. And I just think that best of 5 ultimately will be a much tougher ask for Tommy, as proven through previous matches against Alcaraz and Sinner. Tiafoe was the second man to earn a straight sets win on Lenglen. He defeated the unseeded German Daniel Altmaier 6-3, 6-4, 7-6. Altmaier, by the way, defeated the top-ranked American Taylor Fritz in the opening round. Frances performed very well in the first 2 sets, but he was very, very close to dropping the third set, and he trailed 2-5. And I was like, oh my gosh, is Frances about to pull a Felix Auger-Aliassime and lose this from being 2 sets to love up? But I'm proud of him because unlike Felix, he locked in, and that was shady. But he locked in and just stayed the course. And He played some phenomenal tennis, especially in that tiebreaker. I'm glad he took advantage of this opportunity in this section because I said before the tournament started, if no American came through, I'll be very disappointed. But he did his big one and he got through this one. And it's impressive because, for one, he was a big favorite in this one against Altmaier. He very easily could have faltered under the pressure, but he rose to the occasion. And it's just a great effort for Frances, too, to come through to this quarterfinal without dropping a single set. He always had the tools really to do well at Roland Garros, and as his game works well on the clay. But I think that the biggest X factor for Frances is just his mental. Up next for Tiafoe in the quarterfinals is Italian Lorenzo Musetti, who defeated Aryna 7-5, 3-6, 6-3, 6-2 to reach his first Roland Garros quarterfinal. This also marks Musetti's first win over a top 10 player in a major. Musetti-Rune capped off an astounding day of play on Chatrier, and this one did not disappoint at all. And the first 2 sets and a half were an absolute duel. Every single game was a grind, and we didn't have a love game until 3-1 in the third set. I think at some point, Rune hit a wall physically a little bit, and that 5-setter, I believe, against Quinton Halys caught up to him from that third round. It was hot out there in that third round match too, and I think that Rune, who has also struggled with conditioning issues in the past, it was just going to be an uphill climb against someone like Musetti, especially because Lorenzo, he only dropped 1 set en route to the 4th round, plus he's been just match tough all clay season. He cruised on serve, Lorenzo did, for the remaining 2 sets, and Holger, meanwhile, continued to struggle. Gotta give Lorenzo his props. He's now made the quarterfinals of all 4 big clay tournaments this season. Of course, he made the Monte Carlo final, in the semifinals of Madrid and Rome. He's going to be looking to go 4 for 4 in semifinals here against Tiafoe, where he will be a favorite. There is going to be a lot on the line, of course, for these two in making their first Roland Garros semifinal, but Tiafoe will likely return to the top 10 if he won this match. That is, unless Rublev beats Sinner and goes further. Lorenzo, meanwhile, could possibly clinch his top 5 debut with this win. Musetti will be a big favorite in this one mainly because of his clay success. He is ranked higher too, but I think that Frances, though, does have a good chance. He leads the head-to-head, actually, with Lorenzo 3-2, and he dominated Lorenzo in their last meeting in Cincinnati last year, 3-2. However, the clay does give Lore an advantage, but even their lone clay meeting, which was Rome 2023, went the distance, of course, ultimately in Musetti's favor. Perhaps Musetti, being the favorite on this one, could actually mess with him mentally. But on the other hand, I think that Lorenzo will be a considerable step up in class in terms of pedigree and opponent compared to what Tiafoe has faced thus far. His toughest opponent was the Sebi Korda. Sebi Korda does not match up to Musetti, especially on clay. And I think that ultimately that step up in class would be a little bit much for Tiafoe to handle. And I think that Musetti, being the more battle-tested of the two here, and he's faced adversity and against Novone and against Rune, that could aid him in this one. And I have him coming through this one at about, I'll say, 5 sets to make the semifinals. Looking ahead to day 9's order of play, Coco Gauff opens it against Ekaterina Alexandrova, and then Coco's former doubles partner Pegula follows it up against Frenchwoman Lois Bosson. Novak Djokovic takes on Cam Norrie, and on the night session, there's Sinner against Rublev, the battle of the Gingers. On Suzanne Lenglen, good pals Mira Andreeva and Daria Kasatkina face off, followed by Zverev and Griekspoor, and then Americans Madison Keys and Haley Baptiste will duel. Then it's going to be Bublik against Jack Draper. That is all I have for this Day 8 recap. It was truly a movie. Let me know what you thought about all the action and whether you believe that Swiatek's come from behind win will indicate another, turn in form and that she will go on to win the title. And feel free to drop all your predictions for the upcoming quarterfinal matches, including, of course, Sabalenka Zheng, Swiatek Svitolina, Musetti Tiafoe, and Alcaraz Paul. Again, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my Day 9 recap video. Thank you again so much for watching, y'all, and for your support. It truly means a lot. I can't express enough how much your support means to me. And I'll see y'all next time here on Christian's Court.